It is extremely rare. I mean, extremely rare that I find myself agreeing with the mainstream media. It is extremely rare that I find something on God Awful Announcing that is factually reported without bias. But I am not even going to call them God Awful Announcing today. I'll just call them Awful Announcing. I'm actually going to give them credit here for breaking this story. To be honest with you, I am pleasantly surprised with how the mainstream media is covering this story with Kevin Brown. Normally, when the evil white man gets suspended or fired from his job, the media breaks out the charcoal and celebrates with the grilled woke wiener. This is great news. The white man losing his job opens up an opportunity for diversity. Oh, I love diversity. The only thing better than diversity is the inclusion of the Oscar Mayer in my toasted buns. The woke media has done a great job covering this story, which makes me a little bit suspicious. It gives me some hesitance. Anytime I find myself agreeing with the media, I'm always a bit skeptical. But with this particular story, everything seems to be legit. Everything seems to be on the up and up. We are weeks away from the fall season, or as the mainstream media likes to call it, climate change. With the change in seasons comes the risk of allergies, but there is one specific allergy that has a tendency to stick around all year. It seems to affect a sizable portion of the population. Many people, they are allergic to the truth. The truth allergen has become so prevalent, there is an active push to silence anyone who is willing to speak it. In most cases, the mainstream media, they are leading the fight to silence free speech. But in this case, the media, they seem to be the biggest defenders of it. Maybe, just maybe, the media is willing to defend Kevin Brown because they're afraid something like this could happen to them next. For the past 3 years, Kevin Brown has been the primary play-by-play announcer for locally broadcasted games for the Baltimore Orioles, meaning most seasons he works all 162 games because the Orioles rarely on national television. Historically, this team has been the definition of huge embarrassing failure, but the Stars, they have aligned this season in Baltimore. In my 38 years on this earth, the Baltimore Orioles, they have made the playoffs 5 times, but this season, they have managed to do something that has been rare in Baltimore the last 38 years. The Baltimore Orioles, they are actually winning baseball games. They're currently first place in the AL East. Now, when things are going this well, when you're the owner of a franchise that is known for failure and you've finally found a way to succeed, most owners, they are going to do everything in their power not to rock the boat. You finally receiving good press, your team is winning, you're leading your division. All you got to do is sit back and watch your bank account grow. But apparently, John Angelos does not understand this philosophy. John Angelos, owner of the Baltimore Orioles. Like I said, Kevin Brown, play-by-play guy, and he's also a fan favorite. From what I can tell, Kevin Brown is universally loved and respected amongst the fans of the Orioles. Last month, Baltimore, they were in Tampa to participate in a Major League Baseball game in front of dozens of fans. Some nights, there's actually more people in the WNBA dump than there are at Tropicana Field in Tampa. Before the game, Kevin Brown, he was explaining to the television audience how the Orioles have struggled to win in Tampa. He was painting the narrative that even though Baltimore is shocking the world by winning games, fans should not overlook this series against the Rays. In sports, there's always that one team, there's always that one venue that you can never seem to overcome. For the Orioles, it's Tropicana Field and the Tampa Bay Rays. Or maybe they're calling themselves the Tampa Rays now. I mean, who gives a fuck? It doesn't matter what their name is. People in Tampa don't give a shit about this team. But listen to this commentary from Kevin Brown. I'm going to black out some of the images for copyright reasons, but the visual really doesn't matter. Just listen to the commentary. You tell me if you're triggered by what he is saying. You tell me if this commentary is worthy of a suspension. Roll the film.
This has been maybe the toughest ballpark to play in. It's been a minute. The Orioles split a 2-gamer with the Rays in June. They had lost their last 15 series here at Tropicana Field. You have to go back to when our now colleague Brad Brock picked up the win in the series finale June 25th, 2017. The last time the Orioles won a series here at St. Pete. They're winning 3 of 18 the previous 3 years combined.
That was so triggering. What was so bad about that? What did Kevin Brown say that warranted a suspension? Here's the thing, and to me, this makes this situation look far worse for John Angelos and the Orioles. Management, they did not make an announcement that they were suspending Kevin Brown. They didn't release a statement explaining why they pulled him off the air. Kevin Brown just mysteriously disappeared for 8 or 9 games. No one knew what happened. People didn't know if he was left behind in Tampa. There was even some speculation that he was squashed by Bubba the Love Sponge, the Tampa version of the Lizzo. Normally, when a broadcaster's pulled off the air, the team or the media company, they explain why. Remember Glenn Kuiper? A couple of months ago, NBC Sports in the Bay Area, they fired Glenn Kuiper because he slipped up during a live broadcast. There was no speculation as to why Glenn Kuiper was suspended and eventually fired. We might not have agreed with the decision, but at least we knew why NBC made the decision. For weeks with this situation with Kevin Brown, fans in Baltimore, they have been speculating as to why he's been absent. Apparently, though, there is a logical explanation for this suspension. Management in Baltimore, they were triggered by this commentary. They felt Kevin Brown made it seem like the organization in Baltimore is cheap. I've listened to that clip several times this morning. Not one time did I hear Kevin Brown say anything about the payroll in Baltimore. I didn't hear him complain about the Orioles refusing to pay players. All he did was make the point that Baltimore struggles in Tampa. So I'm struggling to understand how that makes management seem cheap. Although you could make the case that the Orioles are cheap considering the fact that they rank 28th in Major League Baseball in payroll. Now, according to The Athletic and the New York Post, the fake illusion of making the Orioles sound cheap, that is not the only thing that can get you suspended. You can also be suspended for not wearing team-approved clothing on the air. Recently, Kevin Brown had to fill in on the radio for another broadcaster who was removed because he was not wearing team-approved apparel. Did I miss something? Is there a new definition for radio? I've always been under the impression that radio was an audio-only platform. The guy could be wearing a dress that he borrowed from Dylan Mulvaney and no one would know. According to the New York Post, broadcasters, they are also not allowed to mention any player who has played for the Orioles in the past. I guess mentioning Cal Ripken Jr., no bueno. Roberto Alomar? My question is, what do they do when a former player is playing against the Orioles? Kevin Gausman, for example, he plays for the Blue Jays. They're in the same division. What the hell's Kevin Brown supposed to say when Kevin Gausman is pitching against the Orioles? Tall white man throws a slider, swing, and a miss. This suspension of Kevin Brown, this is an absolute disgrace. This dude was suspended for telling the truth. He was silenced by his own organization. I'm not going to lie. This suspension and the reasoning behind it, it seems so ridiculous that it does make me wonder if something happened behind the scenes that we don't know about. It does make me wonder if there is a logical reason for the suspension, but I can only go by what is being reported. Now, you would think if something happened behind the scenes with all the negative publicity the Orioles are getting today, that they would issue a statement explaining what happened, why they suspended Kevin Brown. But instead, it seems like they're just trying to cover everything up, which makes me think they know this is bullshit and they don't want us knowing about it. You know, controlling organizations like this, where the organization wants complete and total control over their employees, this seems to have become the norm. How many times have we talked about ESPN silencing their employees? And this doesn't only happen in the media. It's prevalent throughout corporate America. For some reason, some corporations have this mentality that because they are paying you, they have complete control over you. Now, some people will justify this by saying, well, they're paying you to present a certain image. You're representing the company. No one is forcing you to do this. If you don't like it, just go work somewhere else. That is exactly what millions of people are doing. Corporations have become so controlling that people are just outright refusing to work for them. Kevin Brown was suspended for saying the Orioles struggle in Tampa. Management doesn't want their broadcasters mentioning former players. Who in the hell wants to work in a tense environment like that where everything you say is being monitored, where everything you say is regulated? It's the perfect recipe for a lack of authenticity. If I wanted to watch something inauthentic, if I wanted to watch a polished turd, I would turn on ESPN. When our grandparents were working, companies actually took care of their people, their employees. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. Employees are treated like assets, they're treated like replaceable objects. Growing up, I watched my mom wake up every morning and go to a job that she absolutely hated. 35 years she hated waking up and going to work. I think a lot of people in my generation watched the same thing with their parents. We watched our parents deal with shitty management. We watched our parents being miserable with their job. We grew up and experienced the same thing for ourselves. Then these corporations, they sit back and wonder why they can't get anyone to come work for them. They increase salaries, they offer signing bonuses. No one wants it. Situations like this with Kevin Brown or what happened with Glenn Kuiper or the many people who have left ESPN after years of being miserable and disgruntled, this is why companies cannot find help. People with options, people with skills, they are no longer willing to tolerate their bullshit. I feel like I am so blessed to have this YouTube channel. When we pass milestones, and I thank you guys for watching me every day and allowing me to live my dream, those are not empty words. I mean every bit of it. I am so appreciative of all of you. I am so thankful to have this platform. I have never taken it for granted. God forbid something happen. God forbid you guys get tired of hearing me rant or you get tired of looking at this GQ face. I could not go back to working for someone else. I couldn't go back to the mundane 9 to 5 sitting behind a desk on a Monday morning waiting for Friday afternoon. I would be an Uber driver before I returned to the prison of corporate America. At least Uber drivers have freedom. I keep hearing a lot about this gig economy where people are utilizing their own skills and they're working for themselves. Some people are even taking pay cuts, at least initially, just to make it on their own. More and more people seem to be willing to take the risk. Now, companies, they'll blame Fauci, they'll blame welfare, they'll blame anyone but themselves. I'll say the same thing about Kevin Brown that I've said in the past about Michael Irvin. If I'm Kevin Brown, I would not go back to working for the Baltimore Orioles. You want to suspend me for telling the truth? You want to treat me like I'm disposable? Fine. I'll show you just how indispensable I am. But anyway, give me your thoughts on this. The Orioles quietly suspend Kevin Brown and get blasted by the mainstream media. One of the rare cases where I actually agree with the media. Now, if you were Kevin Brown, would you return to work for the Orioles? Also, do you think there's something more to this story that we don't know about? Did something happen that we're not aware of and maybe we'll become aware of it later? You let me know. Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys later.